Let's start with President Duterte wanting to redo government's contracts with Maynilad and Manila Water, the major concessionaires for water in the country. Regulators are taking the president's most recent tirade as a marching order. The water companies believe there is time and room to have sober talks. Shaila Francisco has this report.
A new concession agreement with Maynilad and Manila Water. This is the immediate step taken by the Metropolitan Water Works and Sewerage System after the president threatened to file economic sabotage cases against the water providers. Duterte described some provisions in the concession contracts as, quote, disadvantageous to the government and the public. The MWSS is setting its sights on crafting a new agreement before the original contract expires in 2022. It will then have to go through the government's legal counsel, the DOJ, and the Office of the Solicitor General.
Just to make sure wala na tayo onerous provisions doon sa contract. And it always to the benefit of the government and public interest.
The issue stems from a provision in the 1997 concession agreement which prohibits the government from interfering in the setting of rates and connection charges for water. In an undertaking letter issued by the government, the Republic is tasked to indemnify the concessionaires for losses caused by interference in rate adjustments. This became the basis for the ruling of Singapore's Permanent Court of Arbitration when it favored Maynilad and Manila Water in separate cases. It ordered government to pay the two firms over 10 billion pesos in total for refusing to implement rate hikes. But the concessionaires insist the government during Ramos administration approved the original terms of the contract. The Pangilinan-led Maynilad says it just inherited the contract from the previous management. However, they are willing to review the concession agreement.
Inaana lang po namin itong concession agreement na to via reprivatization and competitive bidding. We don't have anything to do with the provisions of the contract. This was written, reviewed, and approved by government at that time.
Manila Water is willing to come up with a workable solution with officials. They claim to have consulted with Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez on the matter. But the group bind cautions officials in drafting a new concession contract.
There should be no intervention by foreign entities. Hindi pwedeng may mas mataas pa sa gobyerno ng Pilipinas at didiktahan tayo ng isang foreign court.
The group is also calling on the government not to implement rate hikes while review of the concession agreement is ongoing. Shaila Francisco, WR1 News.
The president had also threatened to punish lawmakers who approved the contracts, and he singled out opposition Senator Franklin Drilon. The minority leader, however, denies having a hand in the crafting of the concession deals. Drilon had, however, earlier told Mr. Duterte to be cautious in reviewing government contracts. He has the backing of Senate President Pro Tempore Ralph Recto, who said that senators were not part of creating any agreement then and now. Other senators voiced support for the president's move to amend the water concession agreements. Senator Francis Tolentino denied that the president was merely reacting to arbitration in Singapore that backed Manila Water, and he echoed Duterte's charge that the agreements were lopsided. A Senate inquiry could be in the offing, he said.
Saan ka naman nakakita ng kontrata na pag nagkamali ka, bayad ka. Pag nagkamali yung isang party, bayad ka pa rin. Pag hindi tumubo, hindi kumita, bayad ka uli.